Hi, and welcome to Thursday Comics. Today we're talking about the Mighty Thor number 153, But Dr. Blake Can Die. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater, a new comic book from IDW. The first issue is in stores next week. So make sure you swing by your local comics retailer and pick it up while you can. I like these, what they'd call a knockout panel, this knockout cover, where it's red and yellow. It's very effective, very attention-getting, eye-catching, and economical. Pretty easy to produce, but there is a little bit of subtlety and nuance in here, which is nice. And I like this all-red Thor in the corner. Looks really good. Opening splash, pretty cool, picking up where the last issue left off. Thor contemplating his act where he punched Ulik so hard that he broke through a wall and fell into a bottomless pit, the abyss of shadows. And at the last minute in the previous issue, Loki stole his hammer, and Thor is freaking out about the idea that within 60 seconds, he's going to turn back into Don Blake and he doesn't have his hammer. But, Stan and Jack are kind of forgetting something they established a bunch of issues ago, that as long as Thor is in Asgard, he'll stay Thor. He won't turn back into Don Blake, that magic only applies when he's outside of the bounds of Asgard. We're sort of ignoring that, forgetting that, and so he needs to get back to Earth as quick as he can to get his hammer back from Loki. Loki is incognito. I always enjoy seeing these Asgard characters in their sort of Earth identities, and now the hammer has turned into a simple walking stick. So he knows that he doesn't have to worry about Thor anymore. He only has to worry about Don Blake. So Sif enters the fray. We get a really nice splash page of her, dueling with Loki. If you remember, Loki has sort of like extra superpowers at this point. He's a little stronger than normal and is able to keep Sif at bay with Don Blake's enchanted walking stick. Loki blasts them with a force bolt. But Don Blake has a trick up his sleeve. And this is one of those sort of fight scenes that Kirby would talk about where he would sort of imagine that, he could, if he saw a bunch of guys walking down the street, how would he, if he had to fight all of them, how would he do it? And this is one of those moments. And again, Kirby would also famously talk about how any one of his characters could defeat any other of his characters, no matter how powerful or underpowered. They just had to think about it. They just had to figure out the right way to go about it. So almost like a bullfighter, if Don Blake takes off his jacket and comes at Loki with his jacket, he can take him by surprise, wrap it around the walking stick and pull it back, which he does. Strikes the hammer against the wall. This is a new angle on Thor's transformation that we haven't seen before, where he's sort of hunched over like this, hits it against the wall and transforms. Pretty cool. It's kind of like a zoom in. I really like it. And so now, we've been getting a lot of really cool fisticuffs in every issue. So now we're getting that here. Loki smacks Thor with a car. Thor punches the car and a tire goes flying out of it, as we'd seen Hercules do against Thor in a previous issue, and the tire hits Loki. Loki picks up a street sign. Now they're wrestling with it. Thor ties it around him, and now he goes to check on Sif, but Sif is injured pretty badly from that blast Loki shot. Now we're back in Carnilla's cave, and she has a moment with Balder, and we're starting to see this budding romance start to emerge. One of the more interesting subplots from this, latter day run of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's Thor. And we see Ulik is continuing that fall. He is falling and falling down this bottomless pit, but snags an outcropping at possibly the last moment, that if he waited any longer, the walls of the cave get smoother and he might not have been able to do it. And by his luck, he finds himself in a cavern filled with rocks that shine with blinding light. And this is going to lead up to this new subplot, which becomes one of the great Thor ongoing stories, my favorite in the Thor series. Kirby's last hurrah with the character in a big way, his last truly great epic before the series kind of meanders and loses its way a little bit in Kirby's closing years working on the character. It's been a while, but now we have some hospital drama as Dr. Don Blake has to operate on the injured Sif. Loki is trying to figure out his next move, trying to find Thor, and reads this policeman's mind and sees that Sif and Don Blake have gone to the hospital, and so he's going to follow after them. Loki here kind of flying, levitating like one of the Eternals, and he makes his way into the hospital room, attacks Don Blake. Don Blake blasts him with ether. He clears the room, strikes his cane, transforms into Thor, and the fight continues. And, pretty good fight. Loki starts to ice Thor over. Then we cut back to Asgard. Odin's seen it all and talks about a far greater danger, which is coming to Asgard. Maybe that's this subplot that we're going to see next issue, or maybe it's going to be, maybe this was the beginning of sort of teasing the storyline of Galactus attacking Asgard, which becomes a big ongoing plot, later on, further down. But who knows? Or maybe Stan and Jack didn't really know what kind of menace was coming, but they needed a moment to hint at, far darker dealings on the horizon. But Odin breaks up the fight, and Loki cuts out. Thor is left alone to contemplate everything that happened and wonder what is that which Odin fears. Next issue is going to be the beginning of really the reason I started this series of Thor videos, to talk about the first Thor comic I ever read and what made a really big early impression on me as a comics reader and informed the direction that my career as a comics maker would later follow. But we'll save that for next time. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater, a new comic series from IDW. The first issue is in stores next week. So make sure you stop by your local comics retailer on Wednesday and ask for your copy. I'll see you next Thursday.